Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Well, there are more things that don't make sense than things that do make sense. What makes sense to me at this point is, if we were to add up the things we actually know, we know Russia did interfere in our election. And when you look at all of the things that are going on now that are quite mysterious, you're driven to think it feels like a cover-up. If you were a novelist trying to write a novel about what a cover-up would look like, it would look pretty much like this. And so I think we're at the point where it's really important to get to the bottom of this. And increasingly, I doubt that that can be done through the intelligence committees. I mean, I think Chairman Nunes's actions here have pretty much neutralized his committee as an effective overseer on this issue and perhaps on other issues as well.
Do you believe that the chairman should recuse himself or be removed?
I certainly believe he should recuse himself, but I don't think that that is going to, in and of itself, make this committee a worthy committee to carry out this investigation. I mean, I've been the subject of congressional oversight for 30 years during my time in government, and I've certainly watched it carefully for 10 years since leaving government. And I don't remember anything quite as bizarre as what we're seeing now. I think it's not much of an exaggeration to say that in this case, our oversight system has essentially broken down, which is a serious thing when you consider that what they're doing here is overseeing the secret activity of the United States in an open, pluralistic society like ours. It's one of the most important things Congress does.
And it's broken. I'm sorry to tell you that the House, at least, is broken. We broke the House. House is done. So now we have to go and look over at the Senate to see if the Senate will do their jobs. Today, you know, that story about Sally Yates that we started with yesterday is true. Of course, what happened was Sally Yates, her attorney, and the Department of Justice went back and forth in letters. Sally Yates saying that she was asked to testify, invited to testify by the House Intelligence Committee, and that she accepted the invitation. So now, because she had 27 years as a member of the Attorney General's office in various positions, and the last one, obviously, acting Attorney General during the transition, and she was fired. Why? Because she exposed Flynn and told the White House that Flynn has exposed you to blackmail. And then, of course, she would not defend the president's Muslim ban because she felt it was unconstitutional, and the courts have proven her to be correct. So she was fired for being correct. You can't be too correct in a Trump administration because the truth is not their friend. So they fired her. Anyway, she was invited. She sent a letter to the Department of Justice saying, I accepted the invitation, just want to make sure you understand I won't testify to anything classified, et cetera, et cetera. However, there were some things that were talked about with the president, and I'm going to testify about them. The DOJ said, hey, leave us out of it. You go straight to Trump. You go to the White House. So there were meetings. She did go to the White House through her lawyer, Mr. O'Neill. They said, oh, no, the president is claiming presidential privilege here. And they said, but you waived presidential privilege when you stood up there and you started talking about why Flynn was fired, why you fired him, and what happened. And Spicer talked about it. Everybody in your administration talked about it. What privilege are you saying you have on a story that you characterized the way you would like it characterized? But at least, you opened up the door. Once you open up the door, doors open. So the White House did not know what to do. So they phoned Devin. Oh, Devin, she's going to talk. She's going to tell the truth. Cancel the freaking hearing. And he did. And so he, the Washington Post had the story. The Washington Post had the letters. We read them to you yesterday in their entirety, all four of them. And then today, the Washington Post reprints, or updates the story and says the same damn thing that I just said. Said the same damn thing that, the White House didn't want their fingerprints on it, but Devin Nunes didn't mind getting his hands dirty. And so he canceled the entire hearing. Now, he tried to tell us that it was because even though Clapper was supposed to testify, even though Brennan, the former CIA, head of the CIA, was supposed to testify, and Sally Yates were all supposed to testify yesterday, and they were all available, and they all submitted their testimony, and they all were good to go. He canceled that hearing, that open hearing yesterday, saying, oh, well, you know what? Comey became available. I got to meet with him in private. Except Comey said, that's not true. I'm not meeting with him in private. So that turned out to be a lie. We're shocked. So many freaking lies. So the basic point here is the House cannot do its job. Even if Devin recuses himself, that man that you just heard from, John McLaughlin, he was a former acting director of the CIA. He worked in intelligence for 30 years in the government. He was, a part of being overseen by Congress. He knows how it's supposed to go. He knows how it's supposed to look. This is not it. This is not it. So the House is dead as far as I'm concerned. You're dead to me, Devin. I'm shunning you. I'm cutting you out of my life. Yay. I feel so much better for it. So now we're looking over to the Senate. The Senate understood this, and today the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Richard Burr from North Carolina, and the ranking member, Senator Warner from Virginia, they held a press conference. Now, I can tell you that in this press conference, they said that they have 20 people that they will be questioning in the investigation of Russian interference. They would not rule out collusion between the Trump administration and transition team and the Russians. Mr. Burr, Chairman Burr, said this is one of the biggest investigations on the Hill he's ever seen in his time there. And remember, they did Benghazi for years. Burr's been in the Senate since 2005. He served in the House since 1995. So over his 20 years, he said he's never seen anything as huge as this particular investigation. He said they have 20 witnesses they plan to interview. They have scheduled interviews with 5 of them so far. They are very happy that Jared is going to talk to them. They don't know when they will schedule him. They are also thrilled that Manafort has agreed to testify. They have not yet decided when they will bring him in. Same goes for Carter Page and some others. I hope they talk to somebody over at Bayrock, like Felix Sater. I hope that they, So in the meantime, there will be an open hearing tomorrow in the Senate. Now, it may not be on your radar screen because it doesn't have, like marquee names. This is going to be mostly about techniques, mostly about what had happened on the internets, mostly about fake news and how it's disseminated, about bots, about St. Petersburg trolls hired and blah, blah, blah. So after this, 38 minutes of watching this, some very smart reporters said, you know what? Okay, we get that you're going to interview 20 people. We know you're going to talk to Kushner. We know you're going to talk to Carter Page, Roger Stone, Manafort, et cetera, and that you've only scheduled 5 witnesses. We know there's an open hearing tomorrow. Can you tell us, because you've said that this is huge, this is the biggest investigation you've ever attempted in the history of never mind the Intelligence Committee in the Senate, but in both the House and the Senate's experiences, that Burr has had. They said, can you show us or tell us what the scale of this investigation is? Now, this was the most important little part of the intelligence, of the Senate intelligence appearance today. And yet the media is still talking. I'm sure you heard about the insults that were hurled at, we talked about it yesterday. We played you the Russian salad dressing thing. And that was in response to April Ryan, who does not have an agenda. She's a reporter. She's just saying, she was asking, how do you get out from under the perception that there's 2 intelligence committees investigating the White House with regard to Russian collusion and Russian interference in an American election. And for that, she was read the Riot Act, told not to shake her head, told that, I'm sure this disgusts you, but April, you're going to have to take no for an answer. One of these days, and April Ryan has been interviewed many times because April Ryan was the same reporter who was told by Trump himself when she asked him questions about, are you going to work with the Congressional Black Caucus on the inner city issues because you said they're hellholes and you wanted to fix them, he actually said to April Ryan, as if all black women know each other or all black people know each other, he said to April Ryan, oh, can you get me that meeting? And she said, I'm just a reporter. Get your own damn meeting. She didn't say that because she's too respectful. I said that. All right. So you know that happened, and then you know that Bill O'Reilly on Fox News, was picking an argument. Why men love to talk about our hair? Don't you understand? That's like drinking rat poison. You have just killed yourself with a woman. You talk about our hair, and you think that white women we're sensitive about our. Try it with a black woman. Daggers, baby. Daggers. Don't go there. This is why that guy that called me every name in the book, the only thing I remember he called me, besides the C word, because I hate that word, was he said, you're wearing a wig. Because I have lovely, beautiful, perfect hair. And he said, because I work on it. But he said, you're wearing a wig. This is what O'Reilly said about Maxine Waters yesterday, that he couldn't listen to what she was saying because she was wearing a James Brown wig. Jesus. You are trolling the depths of poison, okay? You are electrocuting yourself. You are frying yourself with the last remaining 70-year-old women that watch you. Anyway, so that's what's being talked about in the media. And the real important thing today is this particular part of the Senate chairman of the Intelligence Committee and the ranking member of the Senate Intelligence Committee. The response to this question, can you tell us what the scope of this investigation is? This is Senator Mark Warner, who is speaking first, and then Richard Burr will speak second.
Start off on that. I think we know about the hacking and the selective leaking of information. But as a former tech guy, what really concerns me is at least some reports, and we've got to get to the bottom of this, that there were upwards of 1,000 paid internet trolls working out of a facility in Russia.
Oh my God.
In effect, taking over a series of computers, which are then called a botnet. They can then generate news down to specific areas. It's been reported to me, and we've got to find this out, whether they were able to, in effect, specific areas in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, where you would not have been receiving off of your whoever your vendor might have been, Trump versus Clinton during the waning days of the election, but instead Clinton is sick or Clinton is taking money from some source. Fake news. We've also seen as well the fact that if you look, just for example, if you Googled election hacking during the period leading up to the election and immediate afterwards, you wouldn't get Fox or ABC or New York Times. Or what you get is 4 out of the first 5 news stories that popped up were Russian propaganda. RT News, Sputnik, others. And again, let's be clear, I'm not here to relitigate the election. But the fact we have, I believe, part of our responsibility as well is to put the American public on a higher level of alert that this time it was Russia, it could be other foreign nations as well. We are in a whole new realm around cyber that provides opportunities, but huge, huge threats for basic democracy. And we're seeing it right now in France.
And we're on the brink of potentially having 2 European countries where Russia is the balance disruptor of their leadership. And what we might assess as a very covert effort in 2016 in the United States is a very overt effort as well as covert in Germany and France, already been tried in Montenegro and Netherlands. And so we feel part of our responsibility is to educate the rest of the world about what's going on, because it's now into character assassination of candidates.
And one of the things that we, I think as the committee working with the administration, how we really think proactively about what kind of even potentially offensive strategy you have to take. We cannot allow this to happen again. This last time it maybe favored one party, it could favor, Russia's going to act in its self-interest, not in America's interest. And so we have to be careful in 2018 and obviously in 2020.
It's huge. I told you, there were 1,000 people working in St. Petersburg, Russia, who were trolling. They were seriously trolling. And now we know that there were more than 1,000 people that were responsible for botnets, who were creating out of whole cloth fake news. And they were able to pinpoint American voters in key swing states where Trump, I'm shocked, won by razor-thin margins. Wisconsin, Michigan. I told you this story before. There was a company in San Antonio, Texas, that was data mining all kinds of data points, millions of data points on people, like whether you owned a gun, whether or not you were a conservative, how often do you vote. That's why they hacked into the voter rolls. Part of it was to know who was an active participant in the election and then to target those same people with propaganda wholly hatched in St. Petersburg, Russia, and far-flung places like that. And so there was a company, we can go back over this if you don't remember it, to jog your memory, in San Antonio, Texas, that was putting together profiles of 220 million Americans and, selling it to the Trump campaign. And they were able to target voters very specifically in Wisconsin, Michigan, and other swing states. And perhaps, because Trump bought that information, this is where the collusion comes in. If there's evidence that the St. Petersburg company had the data points, had the information, had the profiles of 220 million Americans, and they were targeting specifically those people based on the lists that Trump bought and then made available or sold to the Russians, bingo, you got collusion. Got it? That's how this investigation is going. That's where it's going. Tomorrow, the Senate is going to hear from not just Russia and Eurasia specialists, but tech people. There are 2 hearings, one at 10 in the morning and one at 2 in the afternoon. And I'm telling you, they're not going to be like, high on anybody's radar screen. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.